we have a triple decker of super early releases. These three should not have been here. They have gracefully given us these three level 70s. Well, Vanille's level 70, that is. Her rework, and all three of their EX pluses 3 weeks early, because we are getting the Brothers Ultimate Trials at the end of the month. That's when they were supposed to get theirs. But we got them early, which is really nice. So we get the chance to talk about them now. So we'll start off the video with Vanille. So Vanille got her level 70 Awakening rework and EX plus. Basically, with her rework, it just turned her abilities into AoE. They take off more buffs. She had minor potency increases to the buffs that she offers to the party, as well as, you know, doing more battery and supplying more dispelling. Dispelling is always such a weird term for me, because not many characters actually dispel. Most of them are just debuffs. But she has very, very, very potent debuffs on top of what she's doing. One in the form of 70% defense down, included in her skills, which is wild. That's insane. That's one of the biggest defense downs in the game. Her EX now is when EX plus is now AoE with some potency increases, some higher turn rate, and, you know, kind of the standard stuff that comes from it. But the biggest one is just 0 out of 3 becomes AoE and split damage, which is actually pretty nice. And at 3 out of 3, it will push off 2 buffs. 2 buffs. When the assassination actually gets inflicted. So she has more ways of pushing off buffs and things like that. And her C65 is debuff attack up, which is pretty nice. Offers some attack increases to the party, depending on the amount of debuffs that are placed on the targets. And most of her skills run around doing more damage depending on the number of debuffs. So she works well alongside other debuffers who are doing different debuffs than she does. That's kind of it. That's pretty much the gist of it. Her EX plus is relatively simple, besides a few extra things that she gets at 3 out of 3. But how is Vanille for the Chaos Era? Is she important? So the thing with Vanille is one of the most powerful debuffers in the game. She offers one of the craziest defense drops in the game. The only thing is she's not really all that great for Brave Shaving, and while she does get access to an HP attack plus and a Brave attack plus at 2 out of 3 of her limit break, it's not the greatest in the world, and the HP attack plus offers no Brave hits. So it's pretty weak compared to other support characters that we currently have, and the Brave that it does give back to the party is pretty minuscule at best. At least it's better than nothing, though. Considering that her role is more of a debuff support, rather than, you know, support debuffer, it is nice to have, you know, and we could have hoped just for a little bit better. Not only that, she has unparalleled amounts of control, pushing off debuffs, and pretty much all forms of her skills. Her biggest cons really is just not being able to Brave Shave all that much. You know, this is kind of the typical thing that we're used to in terms of support. Her Brave Shaving is pretty mediocre. So you want to make sure that you have a solid team comp who can handle that. But she does have a great form of control in her Assassination EX. You know, whittling down the Brave and whatnot. Is she important for the Chaos Era, though? I'm going to be honest. I believe Vanille has her uses in her own way. Am I going to say she's important? I'm going to be honest, not really. Mostly because I believe there is a superior dispeller we're actually getting later tonight in the form of Balthier. She's more of the support kind, but the things that she offers to the party, the means of support, are kind of small. They're kind of minuscule at best. So it's, me personally, I would prefer to have someone like Balthier on my team and run a separate support altogether. But the things that Vanille does offer is incredible. I would say exactly what I mentioned before. She's important in her own ways. It really depends on personal preference. For team comps and everything, absolutely, she's pretty important because it's pretty, she's a select few of the magical debuffers and dispellers in the game. So I would really say her importance really falls on your personal preference. It's really up to you if you want to choose to build her or not. She's not a bad character by any means, and you'll get incredible use out of her as long as you build her up properly and whatnot. So yeah, there's nothing really too bad to say about Vanille, and it's really not so much of a miss if you do end up pulling for her. Like, I think that's a good verdict. She's important in her own way. It really depends on your preference, on who you want, and who you prefer as your debuffer / dispeller. And I think Vanille, regardless of your choice, will fit that role very well. It is actually a really great character to build up for the Chaos era, as long as you bring her to fights that don't resist the debuffs that she does offer. She'll shine for you like no tomorrow. Now let's move on to Setzer. Setzer got absolutely nothing but an EX plus. No rework, no nothing. Setzer doesn't need a rework. Actually, no, that is wrong. He did get a little bit of a boost. No, I'm kidding. He got nothing. Setzer really doesn't need a rework. Because he's still one of the most unique supports in the game. What he offers to the party is unparalleled to just about any other support, and that's the freeze debuff. But what does his EX plus give? The standard stuff. He gets Blackjack at the start of the turn. He gets, potency increases. He gets a recast rate up, which is pretty much what you would want in the first place. That you get out of 3 out of 3, and whatnot. It's pretty standard stuff, honestly. It just helps make his EX perform better, which is pretty much just kind of what he needed. He didn't need anything else, honestly. But the problem does lie in the fact that he still has very little skill usages, but his EX also gives him a Brave Attack ++ and an HP Attack ++, which helps tremendously with his longevity. Considering that he only has 9 skill uses, yeah, that you're gonna need that. But as long as you use him properly and use his skills in the time that you need him, with his EX at 3 out of 3, his EX does actually return really quickly. So he'll have a faster charging EX that you can use to abuse, and with some of the most incredible Brave Battery ever offered to the team. So how is Setzer for the Chaos era? The thing with Setzer is, as long as you are understanding of how to use him, you're great. Setzer is an incredible support unit. He supports the party in a way that no other character in this game can. I would say his only real problem besides his longevity, which can be figured out as long as you use him properly, is the freeze debuff is not framed. So it can be pushed off if you aren't using it at the right time, and they're stacking themselves with some buffs and whatnot. So just make sure you're cautious of that, and make sure you are very wary of that. Other than that, I would say Setzer is an absolute beast of a character, unparalleled in the support, and actually, one of his other cons is the fact that he's split between magical and ranged physical. So just make sure you're wary of that as well. But again, my opinion still stands. I think he's an incredible character to have for the Chaos era. He's gonna fall off a little more quickly than most characters. He's still able to be brought throughout the entirety of the Chaos era, but you will find a time where it's going to be a little harder to run him than most. So just make sure you get the best out of him while you can. But even still, he's a phenomenal character, an absolute beast to have and a beast to use, with an EX that supports the team like no other. So I would say, honestly, in my honest opinion, Setzer does hold some pretty good importance in the Chaos era. I would say his EX doesn't need to be 3 out of 3. You need to have that recast speed. In my personal opinion, you could stop at 2 out of 3. The 2 out of 3 is what gives you the HP Attack ++ and the Brave Attack ++. But honestly, I really do think you need that 3 out of 3 to really get the best out of him. Now let's move on to the final of the three early birds, Serah. Now all Serah got, same with Setzer, is an EX plus. And what does that EX plus give? Everything that she needed. Serah really needed that this EX plus, because it increases the amount of damage that she does. At 3 out of 3, it actually raises her brave before the attacks, which large potency increases and things like that. It's standard stuff besides the brave raise, but it was so needed for Serah. She really needed that. And with his EX plus, it mitigates the need to have perfect artifacts. So I'm going to keep it nice and simple. The importance for Serah in the Chaos era is pretty high. Serah is a fantastic character all around. She's always been a great character, especially after her touch-ups and reworks. She's always been a fantastic character to have. I'm going to keep it nice and easy, nice and simple. Serah is pretty important for the Chaos era. She supports the party. She debuffs the enemies. So her real only con is the fact that she's an inefficient Brave Shaver, and the fact that she does not and if they resist, what I'm trying to say is, if they resist any of her debuffs, it will be kind of a bit of an issue. So just make sure you're using her in the proper locations, and Serah will be one of the best supports you'll ever have on your team. I absolutely do not regret building her up. Never cared for her when she first came out, but when I got her EX, I do not regret building her up whatsoever. She's a fantastic character, and I believe her importance is pretty high in the Chaos era. So that'll pretty much do it. As a rough recap, Vanille, important in her own way. It's really personal preference on if you want to build her up. Definitely needs a 3 out of 3. Setzer, I would say he's important in terms of utility, and he's also a boss friend unit. You'll never be upset about having a friend Setzer. Definitely, I do believe he can be 2 out of 3, but the 3 out of 3, I believe, is definitely a must. And Serah absolutely is a very important character. I believe she's an unparalleled support as well. All 3 of these characters are absolutely fantastic in their own ways. So, and definitely 3 out of 3. She needs every bit of that EX plus. Make sure you 3 out of 3 her, because she needs all of it, everything. So they're kind of heavy investments, but honestly, there isn't, besides the few cons that I mentioned in between these 3 characters, there's really not much of a con between any of them. They're all incredible characters and will help you out in their own ways. So it's really not a miss to build any of them. But that'll do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Kate, Sith, and Balthier are out tonight. It's going to be great. Yeah, at the time of this recording, they'll actually be dropping tonight. So we'll be seeing another video very soon on, their stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.